Hey you, you're super. So, Blackbeard vs. Law should be getting a closeout in the manga soon. After 1077 blew our minds, sorry Shaka, I've been thinking ahead to the future. Blackbeard and Law was a fight we didn't know we needed. A fight that turned heads and pages, and Blackbeard is an absolute menace. And letting him go up against Law was a stroke of genius from our Oda-sensei. We should be worried about this outcome. By the way, Blackbeard has been presented. He should walk away with the big W. Law clearly isn't going down without a fight, and his crew is being shown to stand ground, but Blackbeard's crew is full of devil fruit users, and moreover, they just have that intent to kill. Blackbeard's ability to absorb everything in the area, including the ground that you're standing on, and make it a barren wasteland, let alone suck you in through a black vortex and put you within punching range of his weirdly capable fists. Blackbeard is just, like I said before, he's just a complete menace. There's something about Law that makes me just think that he's immediately going to take the L. Whether it's his face similar to Ace's, or the fact that his crew has been kind of chumpy throughout the whole series and is just now whooping out their trump cards. You know, we've seen Law do existential damage to the warlord Don Quixote do Flamingo, and really, he stood right back up after that. He did damage to Kaido too, and again, he stood up right back up after that. So what we really need to ask ourselves now is Law capable of fending off Blackbeard once he's absorbed his devil fruit power, once he's cancelled out Law's Ope Ope no Mi? Because once the Ope Ope no Mi is out of the picture, what really is there left for Blackbeard to worry about? Blackbeard has a crew of devil fruit users, like I said, and among them is Jesus Burgess and Van Auger. Jesus Burgess having the buff fruit and literally just picking up a whole mountain and chucking it at people. When he gets his hands on Law, that's going to be an absolute wrap. There's not really going to be much stopping Burgess from whoever he touches from just ripping them apart or putting them in the ground for a little bit. Maybe they'll survive a punch from him, but again, this is the newly coined buff fruit we're talking about here, where he did lift up a mountain and he did chuck it. And Law has John Bart and Sachi and Penguin, but what about the rest of his crew? What happens when Burgess is warped onto their ship by Van Auger? What happens when they're in disease distance of Doc Q? What if we figure out that the Pegasus fruit, that Stronger has is something more than we were expecting, and he actually ends up just going ahead and straight up annihilating Law's entire crew with that thing? What I'm worried about for the most part is that Law kind of has to lose here for Blackbeard to maintain face. To be a credible threat, right, at the end of the manga, we kind of can't have Law win here. Blackbeard has to win because there has to be a double incentive for Luffy to want to go after him. And like I said, Law's got a bunch of tricks in the book. His gamma knife, his injection shot. He did great with Big Mom, but again, he was with Kid. And anyone wants to take a dump on Kid's name, Kid was doing great, and I don't care what anyone says. Just because he came at Big Mom with some weird tactics, like, just metal structures and animals and ramming them into her. Like, look, man, he broke her arms in several angles, and she had to go ahead and use a piece of her own soul to bring those arms back to life. Because if she wasn't able to do that, that fight would have been done over then and there. Also, he can shoot a giant Giga Beam laser thing. So, although he's about to get his shit rocked in by Shanks, that doesn't mean that Kid is going to lose automatically. But with Blackbeard, I just kind of can't help but think that Law is no match. And I know I shouldn't think that, but like I said, Law has to lose for Blackbeard to keep that credibility, whereas Shanks, a number of things can happen with Shanks versus Kid to where it's to the point where we don't have to worry as readers about Shanks' reputation, because Shanks can, have Kid leave, or Kid can offer Shanks something that he didn't expect to need, and they could form a temporary alliance. Or, what looks like is about to happen, Kid is about to get rocked, and unfortunately, that's really everything that Kid can do, aside from, losing another arm or maybe some crew members. What's, a shame here is that Kid is a very good character, minus the fact that he hasn't had a lot of screen time. I think he's pretty fun to see on the screen, whereas Law has had, like, what, 10 plus years? So if there was either of these two Worst Generation members that are going to go up against a Yonko, and the Yonko in question are Shanks and Blackbeard, who really is supposed to lose here? Law versus Blackbeard, Kid versus Shanks. I feel like they're both going to lose, but really the one who looks like they're going to lose first or worse is going to be Law. And again, Luffy has an extensive relationship with Law. Luffy is what Law doesn't understand. Like, Law doesn't seem to grasp the concept that Luffy is always going to forever bang with Law. He's always going to love Law. He's always going to think Law is great until Law does something unbelievable or unthinkable. But to find out that Law has been defeated by Blackbeard and maybe captured or killed, Luffy will come to the rescue of Law. And if he doesn't, we'll be shocked to see that. But for the most part, I don't see that not happening if Law loses. And I feel like that's why Law has to lose. Whereas Kid can either run away or give his poneglyph up and leave peacefully, or engage in a fight and lose. And really, we won't really care as a fan base, because even though Kid is awesome and all that, he hasn't had a lot of time to shine. He hasn't had a lot of showcase. His backstory was in a freaking SBS. Law's backstory was all of Dressrosa. You know what I mean? Like, they're just not equivalent characters if you actually try to size them up. In a fight, Law versus Kid, I mean, no offense, Kid, Law's winning. Because even if he doesn't have his sword, all he has to do is open up a room. What are you going to do? I just don't see that. I don't see that happening. Now, on the discussion of hockey, I think that Blackbeard just takes that. I don't care if Kid or if Law just literally undid one of Doc Q's diseases. Doc Q's like about to die at all times, so that's not really a feat to me. And that's the thing, both of these characters have quote-unquote weak crews. We saw Burgess get soloed so hard, low diff style, by Sabo, that I never considered Burgess to be a threat in the first place. But now with the buff fruit, things have changed, and that's what I'm kind of trying to reiterate here, is that when it comes to crew versus crew, Blackbeard's crew is going to win. I don't really think that Law's Sachi and Penguin and Jean Bart and Beppo are going to be enough, unless Beppo goes so Sulong, so strong, that it literally shakes the core of what we understood Sulong to be. Because remember, Jack and Perospero were taking on two Sulong members. Even though they lost those fights, they still fought them, right? And I feel like that says it all right there. What we should consider a W for Blackbeard as a fan base, beating Law, isn't going to be a bad thing, because what we need this villain is to have some more credibility. The way he killed Whitebeard was cowardly, and it wasn't that cool. It doesn't make me fear Blackbeard. When he took on Marco in the Payback War, and we didn't really get to see any of that. We didn't get to explore it that much. On the manga it's quick, and in the anime it's even quicker. It's fleeting. We just hear about it. So yeah, he sounds scary, but he doesn't have a lot of credibility to him right now. Whereas just the mention of Shanks scares us. So that's why we don't really care if Kid loses or not to Shanks, because we already know what Shanks is capable of, to the point where it's fucking freaky. Whereas Law and Blackbeard, like I said, Blackbeard actually needs some more street cred right now, to the point where he has to do something like take out the likes of Trafalgar D. Law, because Law has a lot of things going for him. He's got all those poneglyphs. He's got all these devil fruit powers. He has the immortality surgery in his sleeve. And if Blackbeard finds out about that, that is a wrap. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say here. I genuinely think that Blackbeard versus Law is going to be a wrap. I think Blackbeard's either going to outright kill Law or capture him. I really don't see Law escaping this. And if he does, he's going to be completely in shambles. And that's no pun to Law. Thanks for listening, guys. I had a lot of fun getting the footage for this, and as always, I appreciate you all. Have a nice night. And as always, thank you for watching. My footage was kind of jumbled up, but I think it worked out this time around. Thanks and have a good night.